What's going on, guys? Hope everyone's having a good day. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. So I've often said that I have my Lowrider ST and I have my Heritage Classic. They're both soft tails. One's got a 117, one's got a 114. And with the Lowrider ST, I put the forward controls on it because it was just too cramped up for me. So after I did that, I still realized that the mini boards and the controls were still high. And so it puts me in an odd position leaning forward. Plus the brake lever on the black kit just sucks. And it's just a horrible position, very low. You can't adjust it or anything like that. A lot of people have gone and got the chrome version and then just had it black powder coated. But aside from that, more of it so is the height for me, that it's still a little bit too high for me. I still have to put the bars and stuff that I'm going to do on the Lowrider to enhance that riding experience for me. I'm 5'11 and a half, so I don't like being hunched over. It hurts my back and tailbone pressure and stuff like that. So today I'm going to try something a little weird. I'm going to take the forward controls off of my Heritage right here, and I'm going to switch them over and put them on the Lowrider ST right here to see how it fits. Now, my assumption is that Softail to Softail 2022 should bolt right up with no problem. I've seen a few videos of people doing this where they've gone out and pieced out all these different parts. I personally think that I should be able to take one off the other and just order the complete kit from Harley for the Heritage to put on the Lowrider. So I'm going to test that out. Now, a lot of people say, oh, you're screwing up the bike for the Lowrider. It's designed for mid controls and for lean angle and stuff like that. As you guys have seen from my videos, I have no problem scraping boards and pegs and whatever it needs to take on my ST, on my Rocket, on my Heritage, on the Lowrider. Shitting and getting is not a problem. And the beautiful thing, my bike, my ride. So although I appreciate the input about the design of the bike, I'm going to do what I want to do with it because it's my ride. And I'm kind of looking at making this a smaller version of a touring bike so that I could take it on longer trips, still have the agility and the speed and the functionality and the sexiness of the Lowrider ST, but have a few more advantages for comfort and riding style and position, and enjoy that. I do a lot of filming, I do a lot of different things, so my needs may be different from other folks. But anyway, just wanted to clear the air with that before we get into this. Again, this is a test to see what happens. Figured it might be interesting to check it out, so let's get going. All right, so we got everything all switched around. We got the bike raised up on the lift. I like to have a towel down for all my parts and stuff just because I don't want any scratching plus rolling around, make it hard to find. But we focused in on this area here, which is the left side of the forward controls and the full boards. What we're going to do first is we're going to start by taking off the linkage. So it's a 1/2 inch bolt on the back here and a 7/16 on the front. So we'll just hold those together, pull it off and drop this down. That'll free up the shift linkage. And then we can either leave that on or we can pull it off, but I'm going to take it off because I don't want this edge cut shift linkage on the Lowrider. So we'll take this off here and then that'll pull that shift linkage off, and then we can have that free, and then we'll go down, work below, and I'll show you where to hit the bottom 2 bolts to pull the main frame mount assembly down here off of the frame. So all right, let's get started. All right, so like I said, this is a 1/2 inch on the back and a 7/16 on the front. Watch your fingers on these fins. They are very sharp. So now this is all loose. So essentially, if I was going to use this same shift lever just as it sits, I could just pull out the 2 bottom bolts and take the whole thing over and bolt it on just by doing the opposite on the Lowrider there. But I don't want this on there. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. And that is a 1/4 inch hex bolt. So let's go ahead and get that loosened up and out. So there you go there. Put that with those so we know where they are. And then now you've got your lever, which we're going to put over there and just kind of set it there for now. while we work on the lower side. Okay, now that we got the top part all loosened up, we're going to come down here and take off the bottom bolts for the forward controls mounting brackets. So you've got a T45 right here and a T45 right here. We'll take those two off, and that'll pull out the whole assembly all in one shot off the frame of the bike. All right, so now you know where we're going to aim for the bolts. This is a T45 Torx bit that's on there. And I usually use a little extension to get it out away from the bike to make it a little bit easier to grab. So you just reach on down there, start at either one you want, and start backing those out. All right, so now that we got it out, you can see this comes out as one whole assembly. I just took the linkage out of here because it was dropping around, but you can see the O-ring right there, and there's another one in here that gives that movement for the linkage when it goes through. So now, because we're using the same boards and everything, we can just take this whole thing, pop it over on the lowrider, and then reconnect everything on that bike like we did. Should line up just fine. So if you were changing these out and doing it in a section, then you would have this part to take off for the upriser and everything else, but we don't have that problem. So, and as I mentioned, there's my old board dragging that I do. Like I said, have no problem with it. So there you go, that's off. Now we'll move on to the other side. All right, so now that we got the left side off, now we're going to start on the right side. It's a little bit different. You've got the board, of course, right? So, and then you've got the mount here at the bottom, the bracket, which is still the same, but you also have the brake lever and pedal, which is attached to a bolt here, which we'll see that when we take this off first. And then there's a little cotter key back here on the master cylinder that we have to take off. So you're gonna need some needle nose for that one, but we won't mess with that until we get the brake off and all that, because it's just easier to handle. So we'll see about doing that. But now let's start by taking off this assembly right here. So again, same thing, T45, Torx bit, and two bolts in the same location as the other place. And you pull it off, drop the two bolts, and here's the complete assembly again, as you can see right here. All right, what that does now is that frees up this brake lever, which this should be a T40. It takes this guy off, so we're gonna pull that off. All right, now there's a nut behind this screw, so we're gonna use a 1/2 inch wrench to hold it while we back it off. All right, that should free up our brake lever. Okay, so that's nice and loose. Now we go through and get this cotter pin out back here with some needle nose so we can pull that lever off. So there you go. Now we got this little guy off. There's a little cotter pin in here. Just pull that out. Like this. And then lift up on the plunger and pull your brake lever out. So you can see this is where that cotter pin goes in, and then the thing goes on the back of that. So now we've got the pedal off. We'll switch the bikes, put the lowrider up here, pull it off, and see how it works. Back in a second. All right, so now we got the lowrider back up. So you can see very similar. Of course, here we have the Thrasher mini boards on it. We have the Harley's mid-control kit that came on here, but you see how this brake pedal is like this. Very unfunctional. Makes it very difficult to ride and to hit your brakes when you're on there because of the way your foot sits. So it'd be nice if Thrashin made a full-size adjustable pedal and board for soft tails like they do the touring bikes, because those are awesome. Allow you to adjust them forward or not, but different things. So with this, what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to start by taking out the bottom, and then we're going to do the pin, and then we're going to take off the brake lever, and that should free us up to be able to put the Heritage one right on with no issues. So fingers crossed, let's see what happens. All right, so now we're going to put on the Heritage brake pedal. So I've got the O-ring sitting right there. I'm going to slide this over. Push that right there like that. Lift up the linkage. Tuck that little guy in there. Take our retaining pin. Line that up. Push that all the way through. See a big difference on the position of the brake pedal. And we're going to take our little fun retaining pin and get that in there. All right, so now that's in there. So that's not going to come off. You want to make sure it goes all the way through and is loose, which it is. And we'll take our O-ring, put it back in there. Screw it to hold it long enough to push that up against it. And then the fun begins getting the washer and the nut on the back. Check your play. Make sure everything's on there good. And that's that. So that's in there. So now that we got that, now we will go and put our board right here in the same spot it was before. Very cool. Let me shine a little light on there, make it a little easier to see. You can see fits just fine. Everything works. Brake actuates with no problem. It's up above, it's not far forward. And it's lower and more forward on your reach. So very cool. All right, we will now head over and do the other side. Back in a minute. All right, so now that we got the right side on, now we're going to come over here and do the left side. I know initially I said that I was not going to use the edge cut linkage on here, but I think I'm gonna, because I have the edge cut brake lever on that side until I figure out what type of brake lever I want instead of that one. So I'm going to replace that out with it. But I also want to have this foot peg from Thrashin on there. So I'm going to take that off with it instead of the stock Harley rubber one. That, I mean, it's cool, but you can see the wearing on it and stuff like that. So I'm going to take that off and put the other one on. So this guy, to do that, is to get the Thrashin parts off, is a 3/8 12-point socket. So we're just going to pop this guy off right now. So just as before, the first thing we're going to start with is taking off the linkage. So that's a 1/2 inch on the back. And again, the same 3/8 12-point on the front. So loosen that up. Watch your fingers on these fins. They are very sharp. Trust me. So now when we pull the bottom piece off, it'll all come off in in one spot like it did before. Since I'm going to put the other linkage on, I'm not going to mess with taking this part off, because I'm just going to take the whole thing off and then put the other one on. So we're just going to push that down there, and then we're going to switch out to the T45 and start working on getting that bottom piece out. Just like that, the whole assembly comes out, mini boards and all. So you can see it's all one piece. Okay, so they're gonna go right back in here. Still got a ton of Loctite on these. These things have a bunch when you first take them off, so they definitely do that, so there's no need to throw any more additional in there. But now we're gonna start the forward control bracket in there and get that guy started on this side. All right, so there that's on. Looks good. Nice, more forward, matches up with the other side perfectly. Now we put the linkage in. So the linkage goes in there. Leave that resting on that. We have an O-ring that goes there. A little plastic that goes there. Holds that O-ring in for that spacer. And then we have our shift linkage that goes over that. All right, so we got that kind of sitting there. Before I snug it up, I'm gonna get this linkage reattached. So again, this is the thrashing bolt and nut, so this guy goes on like that. And then we're going to get our 1/2 inch and our 3/8 12 point. So now our linkage is back on, looks good. You can see there now I can mess with the lever and put it where I think it should go. I'll have to adjust it more so when we're on there. Seems a little high, but that's okay, we'll work with that. And then we put our bolt back through here. So now we got the thrashing shift peg on there. Got the forward controls, we have our thrashing stuff on there for the shift linkage. And lowrider ST now has full forward controls instead of the mid-level forward controls. So it should be a lot more comfortable to sit on, especially for riding position. My knees shouldn't be as high as they were, and pretty happy with it. So let's drop it down and take a look and see what it looks like sitting on the bike and see what kind of difference it is. So back in a second. All right, so now you can see what it looks like from the side view with the full boards on there. Current sitting position, you can see these bars are a little forward. So for me to be comfortable, I'm kind of hunched over a little bit like this. Once I get my other bars on there, then they'll be up around here and it'll be a lot better. But sitting like this, when I put myself in a riding position, see the bend of my legs? Now I can access this brake pedal super easy, just like any other Harley. No issue whatsoever, right? So very nice, good and solid, and much more comfortable. If you look at this position and then compare it to the previous position, you can see the difference in the legs. So much better for those with longer legs. Also, the mid controls were like this, so it was very cramped, and the high mid controls were up here, so your knee was very high above the tank. Now that we got this here, it solves two things. It makes it more comfortable for me to ride. Once I get the bars, I'll be in a much more erect riding position, which will be good. And then I can use my brake just nice and fine, no issues whatsoever, and everything feels very comfortable, especially if I go on a long trip. So Well, there you have it. Test was successful. So we took a 2022 Heritage Classic 114 Softail, took the forward controls and boards off of that and put it on my 2022 Lowrider ST Softail. Worked out well. Now, I had done previous work where I went from the mid controls to the forward controls. So there were some parts that came with that that you don't need. But if you did that yourself, then just follow this video along. If you didn't and you want to go from mid to the forward, make sure you check to see that you have all the parts needed to put that full forward control assembly on there. There's also a part that goes back behind the master cylinder on the right side that you got to look at too. But I'll see if I can get a picture out of the manual and see if we can show that breakout. Maybe that'll help. You just put everything on there just like we did, and the seating position is much better. The leg position is much better. Like I said, I'm 5'11" and a little bit, so I only have about a 30.5 to 31 inch inseam, so I'm not real long-legged. I'm kind of even all the way across, but so much better. My knees were way above the tank on the mids, still equal a little higher to the tank on the mid forwards, and then now they're back where they're so much more comfortable, and I can ride for longer distance without being in a bad back position or something like that. So in the pictures that I took and showed in the video of the different parts as I put them on, that's what you will need to do that. But you don't have to piece everything together. Just get the forward control kit for 2022 Heritage Classic, and went right on. So very happy with that. Now I just got to replace the one on my Heritage. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. Yes, it's a Lowrider ST and should be mid controls, but my bike, my ride, my custom, my mods, and for what I use it for, I will be doing a lot of long distance riding on this thing, and I want to be comfortable. I want to be functional. I want to have it to where it's there, and I can still shit and get and lean into the turns just like I did on my Heritage and still enjoy this 117, which is the whole point of doing that. And should I have bought a Road Glide? Yeah, I did. So I have one. So that's great. Am I making this a little mini Road Glide? Yeah, I kind of am, because I like the size and the weight and a little bit smaller maneuverability for some of the filming that I do. So anyway, my justification, not that I need it, but hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, give me all your comments, your feedback, even the negative ones. I know people have opinions. I like them all. It's great. I appreciate you guys sharing. And be good humans, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.